Okay, I want to welcome everyone to our DES 242 Logo and Identity Design Week 1 live session. I am your instructor, Shannon McNamara. I'm just going to turn on my camera real quick so I can say hello to everyone. Hi, guys. All right, so I'm really excited to teach this class, this mod. This is going to be one of those interesting mods because we have our holiday break literally smack dab in the middle of it. But that's good because it's kind of going to give us a breather. Just like you, I have been going all year long. So I'm really looking forward to the holiday break. So I'm hoping, even if you have work to do, which I'm going to have a ton of work to do on the holiday break, but, hopefully we can take a little bit of a breather for 2 weeks, at least from the course. Try to, charge up our batteries, get back in there in January, and, finish out the mod strong. So with that being said, I'm going to kind of go over today a little bit of the breakdown of how the deadlines are going to fall and, some of the things that you can do during the break if you need some time to catch up, things of that nature. So I'm going to try to go over all of that with you today during this live session. And normally our live sessions are going to be held on Mondays and Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. But I had a conflict with my schedule this week on Tuesday. So I'm going to hold our second live session tonight, which will be at 4 p.m. Mountain Time. I just didn't want to wait until Thursday, which would be my next opportunity to hold the live session with you. I like to get things done at the beginning of the week so that way you guys have all week to work on your work and if you have any extra questions and things like that. So again, today, so far, fingers crossed, is going to be the only day that I have to kind of move the schedule around. If I do have to move anything around, I will post an announcement so that everybody can see it. All right, so with that, let's hop on back into the course. All right, so as far as our agenda today, we'll go over some welcome and introductions. I want to go over the announcements. I really want to take a look at our course, take a look at the deadlines in the course, what we're going to be doing. I always find it best to be able to look ahead in a course. So I'm going to try to do a bit of that with you guys. We're going to talk about what logo design is. And then we're going to do a little, is it a logo? Is it a logo or not? And then if time permits, we'll go over assignment 1. If not, I will do that in the second live session for today. All right, so my telephone hours are roughly Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. I do take Fridays off. I find it's the only day during the week that I can travel across the state with my daughter so she can see my mom because my mom has Fridays off. So I try to, at least check in with my email, but it's not the best day to be able to really get on my computer and check things for people. So I just want to make you aware of that right at the get-go. Also, just note that I am located in Eastern Standard Time, so please be aware of the time zone change when you're trying to reach me. If it's late at night, I ask that you please email, not text, because that will go to my cell phone. And it's just, it's a little bit easier to get up in the morning, check emails, than to have my phone buzzing, at 10 o'clock at night. All right, so we have an introductory discussion post in week 1, and a lot of times people aren't quite sure, what to say in it. So I like to give a little bit of a bulleted list of things that you could go over, your name, where you're located, what your major is, what you feel that your experience is with the graphics applications. This is a level 200 course. So are you feeling a little bit more confident in the programs now than you might have in the level 100 courses? What are your career goals? And also, excuse me, just a note to everyone, make sure that you have updated to CC 2019. If you haven't, you're going to want to go in and do that. I will be doing all of my demos in CC 2019, and things do look not completely different, but there might be a couple of instances where things do look a little bit different. So again, it's a lot easier if we're all on the same page. Now, as far as due dates in the course, all assignments and assessments are due by Saturday of that week for full credit. If you're going to be late with any of your work, please communicate with me. This will save you missed points. Deadlines are still the deadlines. You know, there are some drop dead deadlines on when different assignments and assessments are going to close out, and you will not be able to upload any late work. So that will stand. However, you know, if you are going to be late and you know it, please communicate with me ahead of time. That'll save you losing that 20% deduction. That's kind of how I roll. So again, you know, communication with me is key. And again, week 4 assignments cannot be turned in late. You guys know this. You guys know how everything works. You know, the course will close out at midnight. It won't let you upload. It's kind of like Cinderella's carriage at the ball turning back into a pumpkin. So if anything does happen, which I get it, things go wrong, especially without fail, they will go wrong in week 4, right? I mean, that's just kind of the nature of everything. If you ever run into any problems uploading your work in week 4 and it's not uploading and you're worried that the course is going to close out, make sure that you email that work to me, and I will accept it as long as it is in my email Sunday morning, because I know how it is. The entire school is uploading, and the servers can really get bogged down. So I'm always open to that as long as it is in my email first thing in the morning when I go in and grade. Also, we're going to have a discussion post each week. So your original discussion post is due by Wednesday at midnight. And where I see the majority of lost points in the discussion post is people forgetting to respond to 2 of their fellow students by Saturday. So make sure that you're doing that. Don't forget that second part of the discussion post criteria. Make sure that you're going in, responding, having a little conversation with your fellow students about what they're talking about. Make sure that you're posting on 2 different days. Also, late discussion posts will only be accepted 1 week after the deadline. But I have faith in you guys. You guys are going to totally get everything in on time, all the time, right? Because that's how we're going to do that this mod. All right. So, again, we're in a level 200 course, and you've probably been through this, but, it's a good little refresher. What's a substantive post? So those are posts that consist of at least 200 words and have 2 APA formatted citations. And there are resources in the classroom for writing style requirements. And if you're not quite sure if your post is correct or if everything looks good, you can always go to the Writing Center for help. They'll look it over. I'm in the MBA program here at Independence, so not only do I work full-time here, but I also go to school here because I'm going towards my MBA. So I have to write tons of paper. I'm on the same mod deadline as you guys, so I really, really do get it. And I've used the Writing Center in the past as a great resource to be able to, have somebody look something over before I submit it. It had been a while since I had written a full APA formatted paper. So, I wanted to make sure before I uploaded it that I had, all of my T's crossed and my I's dotted, and, my citations put together the right way, my margins were correct. I remember once in undergrad, I had to write an APA formatted paper, and I didn't realize all of the requirements that went along with it, and I lost 20 points because I wasn't using Times New Roman for a font. The rest of my paper was fine, but I lost 20 points over not using the default of Calibri font for my paper. So it doesn't hurt to have that, yes, you guys have access to templates, and it really is useful. We didn't have a template. So I was like, wait a minute, I lost 20 points for a font choice. I was like, man, as a graphic designer, I feel like I should have probably done better there. But, it was the last time I made that mistake. But again, it's always good to have that second set of eyes just looking things over for you. So again, those assignments and assessments are due Saturday by midnight. And again, if something occurs to prevent this from happening, contact me via email, phone, or text before the project is due so we can make arrangements. If you contact me after the deadline, it's still after the deadline and it will still be penalized for being late. All right, so with that being said, how are you going to succeed in this course? Number one, and I can't stress this enough, make sure that you're reading the announcements. The announcements contain pertinent information pertaining to the class. That can be links, reminders, scheduling, other items that I might need to share with you. This is how I communicate with you. I don't see you guys in a classroom, so I have to post announcements in order to let you know, what's going on in the class. Make sure that you're participating in the discussion each week. Those discussion questions are worth 60 points. So that really adds up if you miss them. So please, please, please don't do that. Make sure that you're in the discussion, that you're posting on 2 different days. You have those 3 posts, and I think that you'll be doing just fine. Again, complete your assignments on time. Don't let things snowball and get out of control. And it's week 2 and you're trying to catch up from week 1. And then it's week 3 and you're trying to catch up from week 2. And then it's week 4 and you're trying to catch up from week 3. It makes it very difficult to get everything done. And your work isn't going to be the best when that happens. So again, if you need help coming up with a schedule, I understand that. Again, like I said, I work, I have a family, I have a small child, I go to school. I completely get it. And I also have a second job where I work for an online high school. So I am extremely busy as well. If it wasn't for my schedule, I would go nuts. I really would. So if you ever need any help with time management or just trying to figure out, how and when to get things done, feel free to shoot me a message and I can do what I can to try to help you. Yeah. Yep. It's an online high school out of Florida, and I do a lot of grading for them, and I also host live sessions for them on Wednesdays. Their live sessions are a lot different. They're pretty short, and they're not allowed to communicate in the chat until 5 minutes after the practice work at the end of the session is up, because we had a lot of problems with some nonsense going on in the chat with those high schoolers. But all in all, they're a really, really nice group of kids. Sometimes they'll stick around for the extra 5 minutes to wait for the chat box to come up, just to tell me to have like a nice week. So they're really nice now that we have like a system in place. But yeah, there's a lot of online school now, and I feel like the girl who babysits for my daughter, she goes to high school online. So, she's kind of learning at the age of 15 to really manage her time and figure out a plan to get her schoolwork done. And, when you're not going into a classroom every day, it's usually a teacher who kind of sets that agenda for you. So it's really good for learning time management skills, I think, at a younger age. But some of us, we're older, and we went to school in a classroom. And so going to school online, it can be freeing in a way, because you can go more at your own schedule, but it's also difficult because it's up to us to make that schedule. So I really do understand. I understand what that's like. So again, just, if you ever need any help trying to come up with any time management, plans or a calendar or how to budget your time, I am your person. I live and die by the reminders app on my phone, which also shows up on my computer, which also shows up on my iPad. I have everything scheduled, and it may seem really type A, but I find that's the best way to keep myself on track and make sure I'm getting done what I need to get done. All right, so number 4, make sure, again, that you're doing those daily checkpoints every day. Like I said, I go to school here as well. I have to log in and do the daily checkpoints. And because I teach and go to school, I have to use basically 2 different browsers. I teach out of Chrome and I go to school in Firefox. So I don't have to log myself out of my instructor account to log into my student account each time. But I set a reminder every single morning at 6 a.m. to go off on my phone to remind me to do my daily checkpoint. Because some days, I'm sure you are more than aware, before you know it, it's 8 o'clock at night and that day has gotten away from you. So even if I don't get that daily checkpoint done exactly at 6 a.m., I see that little red bubble of things that haven't been completed for the day. And I go through my list, and if my daily checkpoint is on there, I log in. A lot of times I log in right through the Canvas app on my tablet, and I do the daily checkpoint that way. And I'm going to try to see, sometimes you can't really see the screen very well when you try to show the tablet. But I actually had a student last month ask me about how to do the daily checkpoints on the tablet. He was having trouble kind of getting that done in the Canvas app, which I completely get, because I feel as though it's kind of a roundabout way to do it. So I'm going to see if I can just kind of turn on my camera again. And I'm not sure how, yeah, I don't know. You might not be able to tell. It's kind of light. But what you need to do is, when you're in the dashboard on the Canvas app, which does look a little bit different than it does, on the browser, but you don't need to go into your course to get to the daily checkpoints. That's a good thing. You can go to, it's like right down at the bottom, the to-do list. It's the one right in the middle, and it'll show you all of your things that aren't done yet for the course, and your daily checkpoint for that day always shows up right at the top. I already did mine today, so I don't know if it's going to let me show it. But what you need to do is you'll click on it in the to-do list, and then you would go to submission after you read the whole thing, which is in the details tab. You would go to the submission tab, and it says quiz. You'll click that, say you want to show the quiz. You'll click that you want to show the quiz, and then it'll pop you back to the whole reading. But at the bottom will be the quiz, where you can either type in your answer or check your answer from the from the multiple choice. So what I can try to do tomorrow for everyone is I can try to take some screenshots on my tablet. When I go and do it, I'll try to remember to do that, because I was trying to walk him through it, and I was like, it is a little bit weird, because at first I was trying to go in to the course, try to find it in the course, where it was located. And again, it was like, there was way more of a, it was way more of a to-do to do it that way. But yeah, all you have to do is kind of, it gives you the option to scroll over, and that there, you can probably see there's like a blue bar there. That's where it would tell you to take the quiz. So again, I'll try to take some screenshots, because I know we're all busy. We all have a million things going on. The Canvas app, I think, is a lifesaver. You can, let me just turn my camera off for a second. You can take those daily checkpoints. You can type in your your discussion posts if you have to. You can, check your messages for the course in there. It really is great. There have been times where, I've been out of the house. And again, I also have the Canvas app on my cell phone. On my cell phone, I like to log in as my instructor account. On my tablet, I like to log in as my student account and just kind of keep them separately. But there have been times where, I've been out and about, and I'm able to access the discussion board and post something to you guys that might be important or something that I see while I'm out and about, and I can do it right through the Canvas app. So that way I don't have to wait until I get home. So again, it really helps you, especially, if, again, it's late at night. Maybe you're like me, you keep your computer downstairs and you're upstairs and you're like, oh man, I forgot to do that daily checkpoint, but you have your phone right there, so you can log in and do it. If you can't attend the live sessions live, which I get, a lot of us have jobs. I have a job. I have live sessions in my course, and my instructors will actually be holding his live sessions while I'm holding my live session, so I won't be able to go live. Make sure that you're watching the recorded videos. I'm going to try to demonstrate, different things to help you do the assignments each week. So, going over some theory, really talking about, all of the little things about logos and identity, in this course. So again, there's going to be a lot of information that I'm going to try to go over in the live sessions. Again, number 6, communicate with me if anything is going on. Communication really is key. So again, our schedule is usually Mondays and Tuesdays at 10 a.m. I like to kind of front load my live sessions at the beginning of the week, because I feel like if I can get all the information to you sooner rather than later, that'll give you guys more time during the week to get your assignments done. If you do need any outside help, the Student Success Center is open with tutoring available and no appointment is necessary. And then again, just that note on the schedule change for this week. So that's kind of a good segue to go into the announcements. So let me go in there, because I just posted before the live session started our learning coaches hours for this week. So I'm going to open up these 3. So Wanda Bryant is our learning coach for this week. She is great. And she's usually off on Mondays and Wednesdays. But even if it's a day that she's off, there's usually somebody in the Student Success Center I find that will be able to help out. So don't feel as though you're stuck going into the Student Success Center only during these hours. What you can do is we'll take a look at what their hours are for this week. You just go to the Student Success Center tab and then go to hours of operation. Can scroll over to graphic design. And for week 1, Monday, today, they have hours until 7 p.m. Mountain Time, 9 p.m. on Tuesday, 11 from Wednesday to Friday, and then Saturday at 10 p.m. So they're always closed on Sundays. And again, this is old. Let's just double check that this week is correct, because this still shows closed on Thanksgiving, which clearly would be like over a month ago. So I think somebody might have put the wrong hours up for week 2, or maybe they didn't update them, because I feel like this one's updated. But again, you can always double check and see what the hours are for the Student Success Center. Hopefully they'll get that fixed. I will try to remember to send an email out after our live session is done for today, because there's only one Thanksgiving, even though I would totally eat Thanksgiving dinner once a week if given the option. All right, so again, though, there's some really great hours this week that Wanda's available. She's only off on Mondays and Wednesdays, so all the times are listed in Mountain Time. Again, if you need any extra help, try to get in there. And then I like to post each week some tips for having a successful week. Don't forget about the readings and videos in the readings and videos tab for the course. Let's take a look at what is going on for week 1. So in week 1, we have a lynda.com playlist on the foundations of branding for designers. We also have, so there's chapter 3, which is strategy, and chapter 4, which is identity systems. Then there is logo design techniques, which I think will really help you out this week. And then some before and after logo design tips and tricks. And another section of logo design techniques. And then a before and after case study, small business identity redesign. And then again, even more tips and tricks. So some of these videos are rather short, 4.5 minutes. This whole section is only 10.5 minutes long. This one's probably about 15 minutes long, this whole section. So, not too time consuming. So, I would definitely make sure that you go through and watch all of these videos. Again, I'm pretty sure that you can do every single playlist in here in under an hour. So, that's a lot of information that's really going to help you out with the assignment for this week. So make sure each week that you go in and you watch those videos. Luckily, we don't have any readings for this week, just videos, which is always good. And again, if you do need some extra help from the Writing Center, you can do either a live appointment or a paper submission. I will say this, week 1 is always the busiest, I feel like, at the Writing Center. So if you feel like you're going to need help this week, try and set an appointment now for later on in the week, because chances are good they are probably already booked solid. I'm not even kidding you. They book up so quickly during week 1. As far as paper submissions during week 1, plan on it being a 48-hour turnaround, because again, they're usually really, really booked in advance in week 1. If you're looking for the live session recordings, they will actually be in 2 places. They'll be in the live session tab, and then I also post them in the announcements. And I give you a copy of my slides in the announcements as well with the live session posting. So that way, if you want to reference back to the slides that I've gone over, I try to share those with you guys so you guys can have that information as well. Again, if you need that extra help, make sure you're visiting the Student Success Center. If you're running into any computer issues, either visit IT or the computer support tab. If you do need the IT information, that should be located in the help desk area. If not, I do have it saved and I can give it to you. If you're ever looking for the IT number or email address, I do have that. Also, again, don't forget about those daily checkpoints, and make sure you say hello. Pop on over into the introduce yourself discussion post. It's not graded, so I get it. You don't have to do it, but it is nice to, if you see the same faces or the same names, mod after mod after mod, it's nice to say hello to your fellow students and just see how they're doing this mod. Also, please make sure that you have replied to any and all of my emails. I have emailed everybody this morning, so you should have an email from me. You can locate it in your inbox in Canvas, and it should have also forwarded to the email that you have on file with the school, because that's usually how Canvas does things. It does ask for a response from you to make sure that you've gotten it, so please make sure that you've done that. And then I also gave you 3 different URLs today for putting together some font combinations. I know that typography for some people can be a really one of the most difficult pieces of design, and I get that. Trying to pair different fonts together, it can be, some people find it really frustrating and time consuming. So I put together 3 different resources that I hope will give you some inspiration, just kind of help you out on the typographic journey, because, making the correct font choice when it comes to a logo is really important. So even if you don't have those specific fonts, mentioned in the two blogs at the top, you can look through your library and find ones that you think have a similar look or a similar feel, or you can go onto Adobe Typekit and look for a font that has a similar look or a similar feel. Those lists will just kind of give you a good idea of what goes well together. I'm going to open up these. If we have time, we'll kind of take a look when we get into discussing different logos and feels for logos and things like that. Also, remember, paying for a college education and not attending is basically the same exact thing as reserving a hotel room and then sleeping on a bench at night. Make sure that you're present in class. So let's have a successful week 1. Also, if you're running into any issues with Adobe Help is offered on Fridays from 10 to 12 with Sean, and I gave you the link to his Zoom room as well. All right, so one more thing, which again, we're all excited for, is winter break. So this mod, as I was saying at the beginning, it's structured a little bit differently than usual to accommodate our annual winter break. And the break begins Saturday, December 22nd, and it goes until Sunday, January 6th. So you do not have to do any, I know, right? Yeah. I see lots of yays in the chat right now, which I completely get. That's how I feel too. So you're not responsible for any daily checkpoints. You don't have to log into the course during that time. I mean, if you don't want to and you're all caught up, you don't even have to open up your computer. That's how I feel. So my one suggestion to you, and it would help me out as well, as a way to kick off your rest and relaxation, if you can try to submit your work for week 2 no later than Friday, you can enjoy the break a day early. I mean, if you do need until Saturday to submit the work, the Saturday due date is still in effect. But again, I have a deadline where I have to have your work graded as long as it's been in on time. As long as you submitted it on time by the Saturday deadline. I have to have that graded no later than Thursday, December 27th. But again, I would also like to enjoy the holiday with my family. So if you are able to get your week 2 work in on Friday, December 21st, so that way I can prepare for Christmas. We're actually hosting Christmas at my house, so that means a lot of cleaning, a lot of cooking, a lot of putting up the decorations that are still sitting on my kitchen table. Right. Lots of extra work plus my actual work. It would really help me out as well. So I really would appreciate that. So again, I will have your week 2 work graded by the Thursday deadline, provided that it's been submitted by the deadline. And you are welcome to view your feedback anytime, or you can wait until the classes resume again on Monday the 7th. So yeah, it is going to be a busy, busy time in my household. I can't even explain to you what my house looks like right now with a 1-year-old and a Christmas tree. If you've ever had a 1-year-old and a Christmas tree, you probably know. This is my first year having a 1-year-old and a Christmas tree. She couldn't walk last year, so I was like, this is no problem at all. Kids and trees are fine. What are people talking about? It looks like Baby Gate City in my house right now. We have the entire living room is gated off, and then the entire Christmas tree on its own is gated off, which turning on the tree has become a bit of a challenge because you have to hop barriers to even get to the tree in order to turn it on. So yeah, we could have really used an upside down tree hanging from the ceiling. And I have one picture of my daughter just the minute I put the gate up, just losing her mind because she can't reach the tree and she can't, touch the ornaments. So yeah, I sent it to my mom and put a caption, "It's the most wonderful time of the year." So I thought we were doing fine. Like, we were decorating the tree and she was helping. And then by the time I started putting more ornaments on, she started taking all the ornaments that she had put on back off and putting them away. So that was kind of funny. So again, lots going on. I'm sure all of you have a lot going on, just trying to manage absolutely everything. So yeah, let's do what we can to, get our work in early. I know for my classes I'm taking, I am going to try to have my work in by like Wednesday for week 2. So again, like, I get it. You guys have jobs, you guys have lives, you guys have families. I'm just saying, if you would like to have a couple of extra days, the earliest you get it in, the better off you will be going into the break. All right. So when it comes to your assignments and assessments, I not only accept, but I do encourage you to resubmit your project. I do allow one resubmission where you can utilize the critique that I've given you and make your work better. The only thing is I don't allow resubmissions of papers. So make sure that you use the Writing Center resources before you submit your papers. But for your design work, if you realized after you get your grade back, you're like, oh, all right, I see where I can make changes and make this better, please feel free to fix it and resubmit. There will be a deadline on resubmissions. It is the Tuesday of week 4. That is the deadline for all resubmissions in the course. So I'll remind you about that going into week 3 and going into week 4. But again, that's where, if you get your work in on time, meeting that deadline Tuesday of week 4 to get a resubmission in should be fine. So these are the best ways to get a hold of me. Email is definitely the best way. But if you text, please feel free to shoot me a text. I will try to get in touch with everyone in the class just to say hello and remind you about the winter break this week. So that way you'll have it. And I'm probably going to send that out as a text, so that way you guys have the information in your phones and you can kind of reference back to it if you need to. Or you can always message me right through the course in Canvas. It'll pop right on over to my email address. So any questions before we get started today? I know that we really went over a lot, but Hello, all right. We have an action-packed, jammed class today. It's awesome. I love seeing that. Sometimes, depending on when the live session falls, I might have 10 people or I might have 0, and it's just me talking to myself for 2 hours. So, I'm always happy when there's a ton of people in the class. All right, so what are our course objectives? What are we going to get out of this class? So upon successful completion of this course, you, the student, will be able to discuss the symbiotic relationship between logos and corporate identities, which is super fancy if you go to a cocktail party this holiday season and you can explain to them that that's exactly what you're doing right now. You're basically, learning and discussing the symbiotic relationships of logos and corporate identities with your fellow students. It's, that just might sound fun to throw around a party. I don't know when the last time, if ever, that I've been to a cocktail party, but in my mind, I foresee someday that I will be there where I can use a phrase like that. We're going to identify the elements of effective logo design. We're going to integrate a company's future goals with historic past in a logo redesign, because, companies, they like to freshen up their images. We're going to create a unique personal logo and then explain the importance of a cohesive visual logo presentation across a variety of formats. So with that being said, that's all well and good. Let's talk about this though. What is a logo, right? So a logo is a word, it's a symbol, it's a picture, it's a combination of the two, to represent a company, basically. So I have some well-known and some maybe not so well-known logos up here. We've got the Apple logo, Amazon, the Twitter logo, Nike, Coca-Cola, Starbucks, McDonald's, Chanel, BBC, Mercedes-Benz, Audi, FedEx, Google. Some logos are so well known that the name isn't even necessary, such as the Apple logo or the Twitter logo or Starbucks, or we can just see the golden arches for McDonald's and we know immediately, who that, or Nike especially, what the name of that company is. We don't even need to see their name. But here's my question to you, and you guys can answer it in the chat, and then we'll discuss it a little bit. So, is a logo a brand? Yes or no? So wait for a couple more answers. Ooh, we've got a tie going on right now. Tiebreaker. I think that's everybody. I think everybody's answered. So we have 3 no's and 2 yeses. So honestly, it's a little bit of a yes and no answer. I know that seems silly to say that, but there is a difference between a brand and a logo. And asking, what's a brand and how it's different from a logo, it's really not a stupid question, because most graphic designers and even design agencies, they're kind of confused about what the critical distinction between a logo and a brand is. So, I'm not surprised when other people aren't quite sure how to answer that question, because myself, I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. Misty, you hit it on the head. Right. It really is a part of the logo, and the brand is a part of their identity as a company. Exactly. So often when clients, refer to, and I'm using air quotes right now, our brand, they're talking about their logo when they say that. They're not actually talking about their brand. And then what ends up happening is a number of designers, agencies, web developers, marketing firms, they claim that they do branding, but more often than not, they're really just doing logo design. So first, let's try to break down what each of those things is. So what's a brand? And one of the best definitions I was able to find comes from Marty Neumeyer and his book, The Brand Gap. And he says that a brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or organization. So interesting, because a gut feeling isn't something tangible, right? So what we normally say is that the brand is the sum total of all of the experiences, the impressions, the knowledge that a person has about a product, service, or organization. So the brand for Apple might be how we feel about how we feel about their products, how we feel about our experience that we had with their products. It's our gut feeling about how we feel about Apple. That's their brand. But, if you're in business and you have customers, you already have a brand of sorts, and you might not be very clear about what it stands for, and you might not even be working towards defining and shaping it. So, that's where figuring out what your logo is comes in. So a logo, which can be known as a brand mark, and I think that's where the confusion lies, because of what we also call logos. We call them marks, brand marks, trademarks, word marks, logotypes, symbols, or even sometimes we call them brand icons, and we're constantly using that word brand. It's really just a graphic or a typographic mark that identifies an organization. It's only one element, although we know it's a very important element, and it's part of what makes the organization's brand identity. And that's what helps us to, have that recognition and that recall of the brand. So logos are a tangible way to express some of the essence and the characteristics of your brand. But there's no way that a logo can represent or illustrate absolutely everything about your brand, because a logo would be way too busy that way, right? I mean, think of how simplistic many of these logos are. Amazon, almost completely just a font with that little smiley face, arrow, because they have everything from A to Z right there. This is, you might just see Amazon and just see the smile and think like, oh, I'm happy that my package got there. But what it's really communicating is that they have everything from A to Z. That's part of their brand. Nike, just that swoosh. We don't even, think of how iconic that icon is. Starbucks, logo has evolved over the years, where it used to, it used to have the name as part of it, and now it's just a mermaid. And I saw a really funny meme not too long ago on the Starbucks logo, where it just showed it through the years how the mermaid's getting closer and closer and closer, and then the next rendition of the logo, it kind of turns into the ring where the mermaid's crawling through the logo and coming out to get everybody, and I was cracking up laughing. Oh, you saw that too? Yeah, I was cracking up laughing. I thought that was like the funniest thing I'd seen in a while. But it's true. The mermaid just keeps getting closer and closer and closer and closer with every single redrawing of their logo. Another iconic logo is the FedEx logo. And if you've ever had a course with me, you've probably seen me discuss another course with me. You might have heard me discuss the FedEx logo in it. But again, using that arrow, there's an arrow embedded in between the E and the X, and that is on purpose with the placement of the typeface there to create that arrow to show that things are being delivered, the movement. So it's, there's so many different, ways that you can, represent or illustrate things about your brand with the logo, but you can't illustrate everything. So usually a logo serves as kind of a visual shorthand or the signature for an organization. You can try to think of a logo as the brand box, where people can mentally store all of that perceptual information. And that can be both positive or negative, right? It's a means to filter and organize memories, messages, data points. A good logo is an important brand asset in a way to help differentiate that organization from their competition and communicate the essence of the brand to the market. So you might be wondering, all right, now that we know the difference between a logo and a brand, which one, or is there one that's more important? And, I don't think that there really is. I think you need both a strong brand and a really great logo. They're both super important if you're trying to, position your company and drive its growth. It's what people ultimately think and feel about your organization, which is your brand, that might impact your business success more. But they need to be able to find you. They need to be able to know what it is that they're looking for, right? And that logo is that tangible piece that kind of puts it all together. So again, this is just kind of, the difference between that logo and a brand, but I think it's an important conversation to have to understand the difference between the two. So again, a logo is a visible symbol of a brand, but it's not the complete brand. It just can't be. You can't put all of the emotions and thoughts and feelings and everything else, you know, that you feel about Apple and their products and the technology, and maybe the last update that came over on your phone, and whether or not people are happy about the last update, that can't all fit into, you know, one visual symbol. It would be a painting by the time you were done. You know, we need to kind of whittle things down to, you know, its simplest form, and that's kind of what the logo does. So here's some other ones. All right, so this is interesting, but is this a logo? Yes or no? Right here on my screen. And you guys can type your answer in the chat. Is it a logo? Yes or no? All right, so I got some interesting answers. Depends and not a very good one are some very good answers. Somebody might put this out there and say that it's their logo. But you are correct by saying it's not a very good one. And that is correct. Why? You know, why is this not a very good one? Well, number one, it has a gradient in it. So that's really a no-no for logos for a couple of reasons. When we think of a logo, think of all of the different uses that you're going to need a logo for. You might want to put a logo on a billboard. You might want to have your logo embroidered on a shirt. You might want to put your logo on a website. You might want to put your logo on a business card. There is no way that a gradient can be embroidered correctly and retain all of the different color gradations going on. It's not going to translate to an embroidered piece. It's not going to scale correctly. Every time you scale a gradient, it changes. It never stays consistent. So it's not good. This also has an image, which an image is built up in pixels, which means that it is not scalable. It can only be scaled to what the largest size of this original image is. So that means if this is the biggest that this image is right here on my screen, I can't take this and blow this up and put it on a billboard. It would be extremely low res. All you would see are all the pixels. A logo needs to be vector. It needs to be able to be rendered at different sizes no matter what. Then we have, you know, kind of this green background here, this green block. And again, scalability, fitting it into places. It's not really going to work in every single instance. And we want to make sure that a logo is going to work in every single instance. Then this isn't a good font choice. Mountain View Greenhouse, and it's in a chalk font. But why is it in a chalk font? When I think of a chalk font, I think of elementary school. I don't think of a greenhouse. You know, you want to make sure that your font matches the purpose. And if you say to me, but I really like the chalkboard font, it doesn't matter that you like it. I'm sorry, that may sound mean, but at the end of the day, our likes and dislikes as a designer, when we're designing and creating logos, we really need to take those likes and dislikes and our personal favorites and our personal feelings, and we kind of have to put them on a shelf for a little bit, because we need to do what's going to be best for our client and meeting our client's needs. And sometimes those are two different things. So that's why this really isn't a logo. There you go. Yeah, exactly. So that's why this isn't a logo. All right, so next we have this one. Is this a logo? So we're getting a little bit simpler, but we still have some of those problems, right? So I have some no's. Exactly. I think that our font choice got a little bit better, and we have a picture of a greenhouse. So I guess that kind of relates a little bit better to what it is that they do. But again, we have that picture, pixels. This can't be scaled. It's not vector. So ultimately, this isn't a logo. And you'll run into this. You're going to run into this with clients who make their own logo. They took a picture one time with their cell phone that they had 10 years ago. So it's not even a good cell phone picture. And they brought it into Microsoft Word and they typed the name of their company at the top. And then they will tell you that this is their logo. And if you say to me, that doesn't happen, I can't tell you how many times that has happened to me. It's just that, and that's why we're the designers, and they are the people who own greenhouses. And you know what? They can grow plants far better than I can, but I can make a logo far better than they can. And we each need to learn what we're good at. So I'm going to go to them for the plants, and they're going to come to me for the logo. Right, so many times this happens. Exactly. So again, not a logo. All right, this one, we're getting simpler again, but is this the logo? Right, you have done a lot. Exactly, at this point, you've done enough research. So again, all right, we've got a word. It's inside of a circle, but there is, so many effects going on, right? So readability. Can you imagine this? All right, just look at how small it is there. What if I bring it down? Let me see. What if I scale this down to the size it would be on a business card? So I want you to picture that on a business card. Can you read that? No, and that's the size it would be on a business card. That's actually kind of big for a business card, right? I mean, because normally we would have, this is like the size of your business card. And this logo, hold on. This logo right here, down in the corner, like that doesn't even leave a lot of room for the information on the business card. So think of, that's how unreadable that would be. So again, somebody might consider that this is a logo, but I think not a good one is a great answer. That's really a great answer. So even at this size, full screen, this is like twice the size of a business card. What a business card is, it's still very difficult to read. All right, so now we have this. Is this a logo? Right. Even in black and white, not any color, we can see this is a logo, and this is a good logo. It really is. Mountain view, we've got the vector image of the mountains, like, on the horizon. Mountain view greenhouse, two good, strong font choices here. Two different font choices, they work well together. You can tell that this isn't just typeset. Somebody didn't just put down their cursor, type in Mountain View, and call it a day. There's thought to the spacing in the letters and how close the letters have gotten to each other. Let me take a screenshot of this just so I can bring it into Photoshop to show you exactly what I mean. Done. Let me, oops, that's in design. Open up Photoshop. There's so much thought that really needs to go into, again, those font choices, everything else, the spacing in the font to really make that a great logo. And I think that as simple of a logo that is, that's why it works as well. I mean, think of how simple the Nike swoosh is, right? It's extremely simple and, but iconic in the same way. So again, that's why, we always say that KISS, keep it simple, stupid, but it's like, I mean, seriously, I have to tell myself that all the time. And I think that this is one of those logos that really does do that. So let me just zoom in just so you can see. And again, it'll be a little bit low res. But look at how nicely, the O nestles into this space created by the M and the space created by the letter U, and then the U and the N not touching. The N and the T, it's a little blurry because of the pixels, but they're technically not touching. But even right here, this is the one that I wanted to kind of to point out, is look at how the A comes right in underneath the overlap of the T. Like, this is just so well thought out, the spacing between the letters here. And it's always difficult to, space the A going into the I, but your I flows right like this. Flows right through. And then even the word greenhouse at the bottom, they've lined it up to be visually aligned. You probably didn't know that. You probably thought, oh, it probably extends right to the edge of the W, but it doesn't. If I take this off, it looks perfectly spaced underneath, but it's technically not. They use visual alignment, not a true alignment, bringing it all the way to the edge, because I bet you it was just, a tad too much. So they decided to align it to the bottom edge of the W. And it works. It's one of those things that works. And I also think that the double line here works. And I don't think that they needed a line at the bottom to kind of close it off. It's implied that that's the end of the logo. I just think that it works. So these are the things that you're going to want to think about when you're designing logos. Why does a good logo work so well? Number one, the simplicity of it, the unity, it's logical, it's consistent, it's creative. I think that logo met all of these criteria. And again, you can go back to some, well-known logos, and you can see, do they meet the criteria? And, you're going to find that there are logos out there, like big corporate logos, that do not really meet the criteria of, a logo and a good logo. And I'm sure that they spent a ton of money to end up with a not very good logo. And I want to say, there was a big controversy. Yes. About the state of Rhode Island, and they made a new logo and it made no sense, or they changed their branding. It was something, but this one, they changed their logo to Rhode Island, cooler and warmer. And this is their logo that they came up with. And honestly, people like graphic designers in Rhode Island, which is, I live right near Rhode Island, so it always comes up on the news. They lost their mind. They were like, what is this? And it was kind of funny because they went through this extremely expensive design firm out of New York City. And I think that they paid something like $13 million and ended up with this logo, right? Isn't that crazy? And it really doesn't meet any of the criteria that we see here of being a good logo that works well. Number one, it's not very logical. Everybody was like, cooler and warmer. Okay. Are you talking about the weather? Are you saying like, you know, we're a cool state? Like, what does that even mean? Like, not for nothing, but we're located in New England. Nobody ever talks about us and says, we're warmer. Right. That's something you would put in an ad. That is such a great response to this. Exactly. And I can't remember that in 30 seconds. I couldn't even remember at first. I was like, I remember there was a controversy. Or, right, how about smaller and greater? That actually makes more sense. Smaller and greater. They should have contacted you. Because they probably would have had, I'm sure you would have loved the $13 million to design a logo where it actually made sense. Because I know I would have. But it did. It led to like all of this backlash where people were like, no, this is ridiculous. How about if we just do this? You know, it made no sense. So again, you know, you're going to see things out there and you're going to be like, well, I don't know. Is this a good logo? Because, I mean, technically, I see it on a ton of things, and I don't really think it's that great of a logo, but why on earth, you know, does it exist in a corporate setting if it's not a good logo? And actually, I'm going to show you an example right now. I need to just run and grab it. And it's going to require me to turn my camera back on again. But every time, all right, I don't know if this is, I don't even know where they're located. They are out of Wisconsin. All right, so you might have seen them if I buy them out here. We have these stores, and I think they're only in New England because I've lived in Florida, I've lived in Arizona, and I don't recall seeing them anywhere else. But they're called the Christmas Tree Shop. And one of the great things about the Christmas Tree Shop is, number one, during Christmas time, it really looks like Christmas threw up in there. But the rest of the year, they're known for selling kind of like discounted things that you would always need. So in the summer, we go there a lot. You're going to the beach and you need some buckets and, you know, little shovels, things to play with at the beach, like little things for the kids. I've gone there. If you need $10 beach chairs, you go there. It's that type of place. But one of the great things that they always have there is they have the K-Cups, which I'm a big coffee drinker. I know probably a lot of people are. And the Keurig brand K-Cups are just so expensive. So we go there and we buy like ginormous boxes this way. So one of the brands is called Victor Allen's Coffee. So this is their logo. And you can see it's, you know, it's got like the V in the middle. Inside of this V, I can pull it up on the screen as well, but I just wanted to kind of show you where too much is too much. The name goes around the band, but the band is it's a black, and the letters are very, very thin, probably like a Helvetica. I want to say that this is Helvetica 35 extended. I really think it is. and they're in kind of a gold, which gold is a hard color, number one, to try to reproduce. So it looks yellowy orange because you can't make a true gold in CMYK, FYI. And then inside of the V, this is a coffee bean with this swirl that kind of, that's why the V is broken. That's actually a swirl that goes through the V, behind the V, and then it also extends over here. So it's really on a box, which is pretty big. This is a pretty big box. It's a pretty complicated logo. Ginormous on the side of the box. And then even within the circle, there is a pattern in the circle of lines going all the way down. So then they have the logo on top of the K-Cup. And you can see that number one, they had to lose the lines because you can't see them at that size. So already you've had to change your logo in order to put your logo on the only thing that your company makes. That's not a good logo then. Number two, the name is so small there that you're not quite sure what the brand is. The only reason I know that this is the coffee that I get is not because of their logo, which I do know now to look for the V. It's because almost all of their boxes come with this really nice image of like the cup of coffee on the wooden background, and I'm like, oh, that looks so nice. And then it's caramel macchiato, so they'll have the caramel, or if you buy like the peppermint, it has like the peppermint, things like that. So the branding on the box is really the only, or the packaging design on the box is really the only reason why I know to get that coffee. But if you only make, the only thing that you make is K-Cups for the coffee machine, and your logo cannot properly fit on the one package it needs to fit on, not a good logo. It doesn't work. So you'll see so many times, you know, and they must be a big company because they're out of Wisconsin and I'm buying their coffee in Massachusetts. So they're a national company. It doesn't matter sometimes the size of the company. You know, you can run into these issues where clearly they just do not have a good logo. I'll turn my camera off. Lots of show and tell today. So again, you know, don't try, oh, is it lagging a little? Yeah, that can happen. So, you know, don't think because something is everywhere that it's a good logo. And I'm going to see if I can, you know, just don't think just because the state of Rhode Island, you know, paid $13 million, it's a good logo. It's Victor Allen's Coffee. Let me see if I can pull up their logo just so you can see it a little bit. All right, so here's their logo. Like I was saying, also, you can't, the gradient isn't even working on the top of the K-Cup because they couldn't get the gradient to scale. So again, you have this circle inside of a circle, a double circle right here with the name inside of it, with the V with a gradient, with the coffee bean, with all of these lines, with an offset path going around each of these, the swirl and the letter V. And then when you get to the actual product, their logo does not work on the actual product because they had to lose all of the double circle. They had to lose the circle on the inside. They had to lose all the lines. They had to lose the gradient. And they still have like that offset path at least. And you'll notice that it looks a bit off because they lost the circle on the inside. So it looks a little bit uneven because of that. It's way too complicated. Exactly. It really, honestly, at this point, their logo should just be the V with like maybe this if they're insistent on it and the coffee bean. I would probably change it to just the V, and I would probably nestle the coffee bean right here, breaking up the V, and call it a day. You know what? Why not? I wanted to, for week 1, redesign a logo. Why not? I'm going to, on a lark, just redesign this logo. I'm going to save this right now, and we're gonna uncomplicate this logo this week. That's what I'm going to do. We're going to see what we can do with this logo to rebrand this logo. It wasn't even what I was planning to do, but after kind of going off on a tangent about this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to change this to Victor Allen, and then you guys can see my process, I guess, of creating a logo. You know, it might get crazy up in here, but hey, right? So again, and I'm going to aim for simplicity, unity, Making it logical, making it consistent while also being creative. All right, so simplicity. Your logo needs to be recognizable in a variety of sizes and contexts. Thus, overly intricate illustrations or color gradients should be avoided, all of which we saw on that logo. Unity. The logo is a visual representation of a company, so mixing styles and font color and imagery, that can often result in a really confused message to the consumer. Logical. A logo is a visual representation of the company, so mixing styles can result in a confused message. Though purely typographic, wordmark logos are often very effective and flexible ways to show a company's identity. It's important to remember that typefaces carry character traits and they can unknowingly contribute to logo perception. Remember how we were talking that first Mountain View logo, how it was in that chalk font, and really that doesn't match what it is that you guys or what it is that they do for a company. You know, is it consistent? Does it work anywhere and in every space where it might be placed? There's only 2 places where this coffee logo should have been. And one of the places is on the K-Cup and it won't even work on the K-Cup. Is it creative? You know, how can you capture the spirit of a company's character? That's, you know, you got to really stop and think about that for a minute. We can't just sit down and in 5 seconds come up with a logo for somebody. We really need to stop and think about the company, who they are, what they represent, and then really whittle that down to the most simplistic icon that we can make. All right, so just for a little bit of fun, which is the current logo? On the left or on the right? And this is the Cadillac logo. And I made these slides last year, so now I'm like, oh man, I hope I can remember the answers. Oh, right, it does say old and new. Never mind. I meant to cover that. It's on the right. Oh, it's Monday. So we're not even going to play. It's not even going to be a game now. I did for all of them. So here's the old logo, but we can kind of discuss. I guess I totally meant to cover that. We can kind of discuss, you know, the differences or how they've evolved over time. So old Olive Garden logo, new Olive Garden logo. Clearly much simpler. The new logo. Is it great? Some people have thoughts on it, but I mean, can you imagine trying to work with the old logo? You know, trying to scale that down with all of these things going on. I don't even think that this was a vector file when you were sent it. I'm trying to think. I had to work with the old logo when I created coupons way back when. And I feel like they used to send us like these weird file extension files that were just like a mess. So here's the new Marriott logo, the old Marriott logo. So again, it's just gotten simplified. You know, the M is still very stylized. Before it was kind of a, you know, you had this circle with what looked to be an overly simplistic piece of the M in it, and they've lost that and just kind of simplified the font underneath. Yeah, the shading did look awful. It did. There was it was a mess working with that logo. Old Vistaprint logo, look at all the gradients they used to have. New Vistaprint logo. Instead, what they've done is they've given you the feeling of a gradient in just 3 shades. So they've lost the true gradients and simplified it to these forms that kind of give you the feel of a gradient. So it's actually, this is actually a quite clever redesign of their logo. Then the Disney Channel, old and new. This is what I mean, though. Look at Disney. They have a gradient in the background. And this is still very, very busy as far as the logo would go. Because you have not only this gradient, you can see that there's kind of like this bevel and emboss going on here with the coloring. And again, you know, they really only use the logo on screens because it's used for the channel, but there are still going to be instances where you're going to have to use it elsewhere. And not going to lie, kind of expect a little bit better from Disney, but here we are, you know. And then we've got Bacardi and Bacardi. The older logo, I like this font better, but the older logo had a vector graphic. What is going on here? We've got this black and white, what looks to be, and this is the high-res version, what looks to be a photocopy of a bat. Like, and the wording in here is so hard to read even at this size. This, even with that gradient, which I would have just done the solid color and maybe changed the font, would have been a far, far stronger logo. Because I do like this font better. I think it's a little easier to read. Yeah, old version, so much better. There are many instances where old is better than new. PayPal. I like this font better. I think it's a little bit better drawn of a font. It's almost hard to tell, but the A's are different. I think readability-wise, it's a little bit easier to read. And then they've simplified, you know, it still has the two P's here overlaid, but they've just kind of simplified how that is done. I probably would have pushed it further by lightening this blue a bit, because you can see that it's two different blues that they're using, two different sets of blues, so that way you get more of a contrast in that overlap. But again, they didn't consult with me. And then we have Reebok and Reebok. So Reebok back in the day was clearly trying to go the Nike route with the swoosh. So they kept the same typeface for the font, but now we have this new symbol here. I don't know. I mean, I'm glad that they kind of went away from the swoosh, because again, you're not Nike, you're Reebok, and it felt like you were trying to be Nike, which sometimes, you know, Reebok is trying to be Nike. But at the same time, what is this symbol for? What does it symbolize? Why is it there? Is it just there to be there? It kind of feels like a car symbol. Like it looks like the emblem that would be on the front of a car. Not exactly a logo for a shoe or something. You know, can't you see this? Like this being the next Chrysler logo that goes on the front of the car. Right, kind of robotic. Exactly. Yeah, a robot, like right on the robot's chest or something. Like that's what glows to tell you that the robot is on. I can kind of see that happening. And then we have Volvo and Volvo. So again, if anything, I like the simplicity of the circle with the arrow, but I don't like the fact that they made their name smaller. You know, not for nothing, but I don't see Volvo out there advertising and selling a ton of cars these days. I know they're really safe cars, but like, I don't know. I think that I don't see the reason for this redesign personally. And then Airbnb. This is a far better logo. The one thing about the Airbnb logo that used to drive me bananas, the first one, is Air is connected and B&B is not connected, and in the BR, and then this overlap, like somebody forgot to join the paths right there. And I know it was probably meant to be on purpose, but all I can see is that that somebody didn't join the paths. That's all I can see here. Like somebody didn't understand how to use the Pathfinder tool correctly in Illustrator, and they ended up with this logo. really the only thing I can think of. All right, so again, I have some font resources for you, and I will share my slides, so you guys will have that. The Typekit URL, even if you use the typekit.com, they changed the URL and they changed the name from Typekit to Adobe Fonts, and it will probably be for the next 6 years that I will still call it Adobe Typekit. You just want to make sure that you are signed in. It doesn't always leave you signed in, so you might choose and save fonts and they're not going to show up in your creative library, so you're going to want to make sure that you are all signed in. It's kind of like Adobe Color. Make sure you're signed in with the correct Adobe ID. I always tell use the example of the time that I was in Adobe Color and I had signed in with, I have 2 Adobe IDs because I have an Adobe ID from like way back before there was even a Creative Suite, and I signed in with that one by accident, and I was like making all of these color palettes and they weren't showing up, and I just kept saving them and saving them and saving them and trying to like quit out of InDesign, go back into InDesign, quit out of InDesign, go back into InDesign, and finally I realized like an hour later I was signed in with the wrong Adobe ID, and I was like, oh, well, let me sign out and sign back in and save that color scheme. Oh, look, there it is. So again, these are some really good resources. The other one is Font Squirrel. So with Font Squirrel, you'll need to download the font and load it on your machine. And then you can use FontBook to do that. And so you'll need to save the fonts. Don't delete them off or else they'll end up missing. But again, they have some really great font resources. I think that was my last slide. Yes. So, all right. I'm not quite sure. I think I might do the logo demo, the redesigning the Victor Allen logo that I've decided that I'm going to do. I think I'm probably going to do that in the second live session. What I wanted to do is just look at some of the due dates and go over that in the course. And then we'll pretty much be wrapped up for today, for our first, well, not for today, but for our first live session of today. And if anybody can make it tonight, that would be great. If you want to watch me attempt to redesign somebody else's logo on the fly, you know, please feel free. It should be interesting. I promise you, I'm not going to even attempt to do anything before the course, before the live session tonight, so that way you guys can kind of see the process that I would normally go through. And the process usually does start out with me looking at the logo and talking about it. So you guys were there for that. But let's take a quick look, and let's look at the discussion for this week as well. All right, so we went over the course media for week 1. So I feel confident that you guys are going to watch those videos because they're not that long. I think, like I said, it's going to be under an hour if you add up all the times together. Again, if you can, please go in and say hi in the intro, introduce yourself. Somebody did let me know that my Pixelate site is up for renewal, so I need to have my husband take care of that. They were saying that the link doesn't work, and I was like, oh, well, boo, that means that it's that time of year again. But I did also share my Behance portfolio with you, just so that way you guys can, you know, see some of the stuff that I've done. I always think it's, you know, you guys show me your work, I should show you my work, right? So we do have a discussion for this week. We're going to be talking about differentiating between a logo and a corporate identity. So we kind of went over a lot of that, you know, today. So let's go over the background. We'll go over the prompt, and that way you guys should have a good understanding of what I'm looking for in the discussion this week. So a logo is considered to be the visual representation of a business. Its main purpose is to identify the company to the general public. A logo is most often made up of the company name and some sort of graphic element, symbol, or icon. In a logo, font color and overall composition, they all work together. Ideally, a logo is unique and easy to recognize, inspiring confidence and positive feelings in all who view it. But a corporate identity extends the logo across a variety of marketing materials and products to ensure that all products are consistent in design and thus are easy to recognize for consumers. A corporate identity is the company's image and includes anything visual that represents the company. So the relationship between logos and corporate identities. A logo is key to creating a common visual representation of a company. A corporate identity shows the boundaries for how the logo can be used and how it should appear to the public. In this way, logos and corporate identities have a symbiotic relationship, meaning they both depend upon one another to broadcast and promote a business. For example, while the logo for Nike is the iconic swoosh, the corporate identity for Nike shows how and where the swoosh should be used in a variety of settings. And I can actually pull that up for you. Nike brand identity guidelines. Here we go. And almost every single major company has brand guidelines on where you can use it. Let me see where. So this is the one from 2009, but it's, fine to show. They tell you how you can use the logo, what colors are that you're allowed to use. Here's the logo type: Nike football, Nike soccer, just the swoosh. It tells you how close things can be to it, what the proportions are. See the proportions to the URL. They're that specific. What the layout needs to look like with proportions and usage. Other football logos, Players Lounge, Elite Training, getting into the typography that you can use, the type usage, the acceptable fonts that you are allowed to use. So you can really see, how, how their corporate identity is set up. So when you're working with a company, the logo is generally the first element designed, and then going through the logo research and development process helps clarify the company goals and overall mission. Once the logo is developed, this information also guides the corporate identity, which helps to set the tone and the mood for how all supporting elements appear. And that's what that brand book is doing. It's showing you what the mood is supposed to be. Each font, kind of sets a tone for the piece that you're designing, and there's a reason why you can use certain fonts in certain places. And they have put a ton of thought into this, coming up with their corporate identity. So for our discussion this week, imagine that you've been hired to create a logo for a new ice cream shop. At your first meeting, the owners told you their favorite colors were pink and orange, and they really like wacky and wild designs. And the owners are looking forward to working with you, but they're not really sure what information that you're going to need from them, so that way you can best complete your design work. In approaching this task, what other pieces of information might you need from them to help you develop their logo? What questions would you want to ask them to access that information? Once you have a strong direction for the logo, what sort of things would you need to consider to create a cohesive look and feel throughout the dishes, the bags, the signage, and the postcard advertisements? For your citation this week, and remember, you need to have a citation, You might use articles that show examples of the logo and corporate identity design process. So do some research on what that process is to come up with those questions. You can also find articles from experts that suggest what questions to ask clients when developing a logo. Your initial and reply posts should work to develop a group understanding of this topic, challenge each other, build on each other, always be respectful, but discuss this and figure it out together. So again, your one main post needs to have one APA citation and be 150 words. And don't forget to respond to 2 of your fellow students, because you might, not only is it one of the requirements, but you might see some great questions there that you didn't find in your research that they're going to ask their clients. And if this is something you plan on doing, you know, put all the information you can find from each other into, you know, into kind of your toolbox for when you're out there in the field. So again, your initial post is due Wednesday at midnight, and then you need to respond to 2 of your fellow students by Saturday. All right, so again, I was saying that we will go over this week's assignment in the next live session. I'm going to go over the prompt and everything. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you when things are due in this class and what the due dates are. So for the week 1 assignment, it's due for full points on Saturday, which is, I need to pull up a calendar, the 15th. So, but it is going to be open for you until the January 5th, which is 1 day before you come back from winter break. So what that means is if your work is late and you need extra time, I will leave this open past the week 2 deadline. But I will only leave it open through the day before we get back from winter break to let you get that done. So I just want to let you know that, you know, kind of look through and see what the due dates are. It's definitely due by Saturday, but it's only available through January 5th. Once it closes out and you will not be able to submit it. So the week 1 assessment, again, through the same date, will be open through January 5th, but it's due on Saturday. I feel like there might be an easier way to show this. I think if I go into modules, there we go. So week 2, your assignment will be due December 22nd, but I will leave it open through January 12th. So again, make sure you're double checking. And then again, week 2, if you can get it done by Friday the 21st, that would be awesome, your assignment and your assessment. Same thing for your assessment. It's due December 22nd. I will leave it open through January 12th. Week 3's assignment is due January 12th. I will leave it open through the end of the course, which is January 19th. And that is the same for the assessment. And then week 4 would be open through the last day of the course as well. So those are how I have the due date set up and when things are going to close out in this class. So please be sure that you are aware of that. It's week 1. Week 1 is the one that is only open through the last day of winter break. So if you need during the break to get caught up, you can have during the break to get caught up. But if you don't submit your work until after you come back for break, you're going to realize that it's not going to allow you to submit it. It will be closed out. The course will be closed out. As far as those discussion questions, those remain open for an extra week. You will lose points for it being late, but if you miss it, I would rather you do, you know, your 1 main post and your 2 follow-up posts the following week and get a 55 as opposed to a 0. You're not going to get the full 60 points. The 55 points is way better than 0 points. But again, make sure that you are aware of when things are closing. So The discussion is due December 12th. And I don't know where it shows this. It's like somewhere on the page that it shows when it closes out, I think. But it's going to close out at the end of week 2. So again, that would be the December 22nd. The week 2 discussion will be open through week 3's deadline. Week 3's discussion will be open through week 4's deadline, just like that. So any questions on how I have things set up in the course, on any of the due dates, anything else before I kind of show you some of these pairings that I had in the slideshow? Alrighty. So I had saved with you. I can't speak today. It's a Monday. I had talked with you, not really. So I shared with you 3 different links in the announcement for week 1, how to survive week 1 or whatever I called it. One was from Font Squirrel, and they're all on pairing fonts together. One was from the Creative block, and one was from Just Creative. So you can kind of see how they have paired some fonts together. So we've got this font with this font, this font and this font. And it tells you the different fonts that they use, which I think is great, because even if you don't have this exact font like this brand, I think this is Brandon Grotesque. This is very, very similar to Futura. And then Livery is very, very similar. I would probably, in this instance, pair a Futura with maybe a Gaudi, Gaudi regular, or probably Gaudi regular with a Futura medium or Futura bold. This is Manus, Open Sans, and Oswald together, all 3. So you can kind of see, and it gives you a link to find the fonts. Don't buy any fonts. There's so many free resources that there's really no need at this juncture to buy fonts. Seriously. You can find them. I mean, I'm not trying to tell you to download things from like weird websites, but Font Squirrel has a lot of great resources. And between that and Adobe Typekit, there's just so many resources to get free fonts. I like Proxima Nova. I just find it's a nice font for legibility. Yeah, DaFont is okay. There's a lot of nonsense sometimes I can download from there. You just got to be a little bit careful there. The past couple of years, I've been trying to stay away from them because I wasn't quite sure if they were killing my machine. I like this one. I really like this font right here. I think that's a really pretty font. I think that's that Omnis Pro. Adobe Caslon right here. That's a great font with Brandon Grotesque. So again, if you can't find that Brandon Grotesque, Futura is a good option. Futura is one of the best drawn fonts out there. The same with Helvetica. People are like, oh, it's only Helvetica though. You know what? Helvetica is a beautifully drawn font. Never think to yourself, oh, it's only Helvetica. Here's Futura. This is what I'm talking about. Here's Futura. Very similar feel. You can see. With Museo Slab. I really like Museo as a font. I have that somewhere on my machine. And then we have PT Sans with Trend Sans 1. Normally, I would say to you, do not mix 2 sans serif fonts. But where this one is all caps and being used as a headline, I think it works. So they've taken a rule and broken the rule, but it's because they understand the rule, if that makes sense. You have to understand the rules before you can break them. Another one where they have 2, This is a great, Avenir Next is a great font with the Adele. I really like that. Roboto Slab, I've used that. Actually, Roboto Slab is available for Google Slides. I have a lot of my slides in Roboto Slab. So you can see there's like 16 pages of just great font pairings that you can go through. If you're looking for inspiration for your logo for this week, and you're just not quite sure what to use for a font, 16 pages that you can look through. Here's some other great ones. Mini and Pro and Brandon Grotesque. Who would have thought? And then it goes into how to pair your fonts together. Contrast and, pairing different types of subcategories, such as a Super Grotesque and, Mini and Pro, or these two together. I'm not that much of a fan of this one. I'm not going to lie. I'm not that much of a fan of this one either. But Helvetica and Garamond, yeah. Castellan and Myriad. You can kind of just get some good ideas. I don't think that these pairings are as good as the one on Font Squirrel, but again, just to see a different take on it. And then this one, the Just Creative. Oh, they also had Super Grotesque and Mini and Pro. So apparently that's a well-known pairing. Rockwell and Laura. Ooh, I like this one. Copernicus and Proxima Nova. And again, this is busy. So this is very busy, but it's still kind of pretty. So again, just lots of great little, options to look over, because I get it. If you look at what we're doing for an assignment this week, it's basically we're taking one of these logos and we're redesigning it, and each one has an element where you're going to have to choose a font. And you're going to have to simplify this. I would start, again, I think I would start with the Font Squirrel article, 16 pages. And I feel like I feel like their designers did a really good job of finding some great font pairings here. And again, none of these are logos, but you can see, this works. This works really great together. Maybe that's something I want to try with my logo. So again, just some good resources for you. All right, well, I am going to end this here, and we are going to have our second live session later. So thank you to everybody who was able to make it to our first live session today. And I'm definitely looking forward to redesigning the Victor Allen's coffee logo with you. That should be kind of fun and kind of crazy, and we'll see where that takes us. I'm going to be looking for some different fonts as well, and I'll definitely see you tonight. All right, thanks everyone, and hope to see you later. And if not, please make sure to watch the recording. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always email me, and don't forget to respond to those emails that I sent out this morning. All right, have a great rest of your afternoon. Hope to see you later. Bye.